Good afternoon, you two, and welcome to today's topic lesson. Today's topic lesson is a geography lesson, so we're going to be learning about the world around us, and we are going to be looking at the 7 continents specifically. So, questions that I would like us to explore this lesson are: what are continents? What are the 7 continents called? And what countries can we find in these continents? So we're just going to begin by watching a short video which will hopefully give you an introduction to what continents are, what they're called, and what countries we can find in there. And then we're going to explore them in a little bit more detail later on in our lesson. So let's start with our video.
Do you have one of these? Maybe at home or at school. It's a globe, a model of the whole Earth, small enough to fit right on your desk. Think of it as a map that's in the shape of a ball. By getting to know your globe, you can get to know all of the land masses and bodies of water that cover our planet and what their names are. So let's take a pretend trip around the world. All of the blue on the globe, that's where there's water. And all the other colored parts, that's land. As you can see, Earth is mostly covered in water, with large land masses here and there. In fact, there are 7 different land masses on the Earth, and these chunks of land are called continents. This piece here is called North America. It's one of the 7 continents. The one below it is another continent called South America. On this side of the globe, we have some other continents. This chunk here is Africa, and up here is Europe. And next to it is Asia, our largest continent. Down here by itself is Australia, our smallest continent. And at the very bottom of the globe, and at the bottom of our planet, is the 7th continent, Antarctica. Most of our 7 continents are divided into smaller pieces of land called countries. That's what all these different colors are within the bigger chunks of land. Like in North America, but Australia and Antarctica are continents that aren't broken up into smaller countries. The other 5 continents have almost 200 countries on them. That's a lot of land. But what's all the water on the globe? If you think there's a lot of land on Earth, just wait until you hear this. More than half of our world is covered in water. Oh, hi, Webb, and hi, Bill. What are you guys up to?
Well, Jesse, we heard you were going to be talking about water, and who better to help you than a couple of ducks who, I don't know, live in it.
Good point.
And actually, more than 70% of the world is covered in water.
You're right. Isn't that cool?
Some of it's fresh water, like what you find in lakes and rivers, where we hang out.
And by far, most of it's salt water, like what fills the oceans. And our planet is covered in 5 main, very big oceans.
Exactly. And can you name the 5 oceans?
Of course we can. First, there's the Pacific Ocean, over there between Asia and the Americas. It's the largest ocean in the world. It covers almost 30% of the planet.
It's so big, all 7 continents could fit over it, with room to spare.
Whoa!
But that's not all. On the other side of the Americas is the Atlantic Ocean, the planet's 2nd largest ocean.
The next biggest ocean is the Indian Ocean, below Asia and in between Africa and Australia.
You're right. And another major ocean is up here at the top of the world, where there's no land, just water. This is the Arctic Ocean. The Arctic Ocean doesn't look much like the others in real life. That's because most of the time, it's covered in ice.
Brr.
And there's just one more ocean we should mention.
I know, the Southern Ocean.
That's right. The Southern Ocean is the name for the waters that surround all of Antarctica at the southern end of the Earth.
I'm just going to come out and say that that's too cold for me.
Me too. We're not penguins. Now we know our globe, or at least the basics of it. The fact is, there are thousands of cities and lakes and rivers on the globe that we didn't talk about. And all of this different stuff is what makes our Earth so different and interesting as you travel from one place to the next. So, do you know what part of the globe you live on? Are you in Australia or Europe? Or here in North America like us? Let us know. And if you have a question for any of us
about our amazing world's weather or animals
or plants or anything else,
leave a comment below or send us an email at kids@thescishow.com. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
so we have just watched a video about our continents, and hopefully you have a little bit more of an understanding of what they are. But I'm just going to go into it in a little bit more detail for you so that you can feel super confident. A continent is a very large land mass. So it's a large piece of land. A continent is usually separated by water or other natural features like mountains. There are 7 continents in our world, and I would like you by the end of this lesson to try and memorise these if you can. So the first one is Asia. Asia is our biggest continent. There is also Africa, North America and South America. So North America is on top of South America. Antarctica, right at the bottom, it's kind of like a long, thin one. We've got Europe and Australia. So let's look at Asia in particular. So just like I've just said, Asia is the biggest continent in the world. So when you have a look at our world map in a minute, you need to look for the continent that is the biggest, and you will know that that one is Asia. And 2/3 of the world's population live in Asia. That is a lot of people. Major countries within that continent are India and China. So within the continent Asia, you have the countries India and China. Not just those 2 countries, there are lots of others, but those are 2 that you might be able to remember. The Himalayas is the world's tallest mountain, and that can also be found in Asia. The Dead Sea, the lowest point on land, is also in Asia. And animals that are in the continent Asia are tigers, monkeys, and giant pandas. Maybe you could do a little bit more research on those animals if that's something that interests you. So one main thing to remember about Asia is that it's the biggest continent in the world. So let's have a look at our world map. Have a look at the continents on this world map. Which one is the biggest? So we've got a continent here, here. We've got a long, thin one at the bottom. There's a continent here, a continent here, and a continent over here. If you're lucky enough to have a printer at home, you might want to print this world map off and colour in Asia. So choose a colour to colour in Asia. Remember, it's the biggest continent. I wonder which one it might be. So pause this video and colour in Asia. If you haven't got a printer, just point to Asia and I'll go through the answer in a moment. So pause this video and have a go for me. Perfect. Well done to those of you that identified this continent here as Asia. That is the biggest continent. And can anybody remember what countries are in there? That's right, it's China and India. Well done, you two. Okay, another one of our continents. This is another really big continent, not as big as Asia, but it's still quite a big one. And this one is Africa. And Africa has 54 countries, and it's more than any other continent. Major countries within that continent that you might have heard of are Egypt and South Africa. Some of you may have heard of those countries before. And there's also a really famous river that runs through the continent Africa, and that's called the River Nile. And it also has some animals living there, and it has some of my favourite animals, giraffes and elephants. And also lions live in Africa. So again, if you're interested in animals, you might want to do a little bit more research. So far, we know that Asia is the biggest continent, and we also know that the second continent is Africa, and that's the second biggest continent. So knowing that information now, let's have a look at our world map again. Can you identify Africa on our world map? Which looks like the second biggest continent to you here? Pause this video. If you've printed it off, colour in the continent that you think is Asia. If you haven't got a printer, just print, I cannot speak today yet, just point to the continent that you think it is. So pause this video and have a go for me. Okay, so well done to those of you that pointed to this continent here. This is Africa. So you can see it's not quite as big as Asia, but it's still a big continent. So well done to those of you that pointed to the correct continent. So the third one we're going to find out about is North America. Do you remember what I said about at the beginning of the video, that there's North America and that sits on top of South America? So that's giving you a little clue when you come to look for that continent on the world map in a moment. So countries within this continent are the USA and Canada. So those are countries that you might have heard of before. And animals that live there are bears. You may have heard of that before, that bears live in North America. So that's another one of our continents. So let's have a look on our world map. I said that it's two. North America sits on top of another continent. Can you identify where that continent is on your map? So if you've printed it off, have a go at colouring it in. If you haven't, just have a go at pointing to that continent for me. So pause this video and have a go for me. Well done to those of you that identified this continent here as North America. So as you can see underneath here, this one, I wonder what that one is, if it's sitting below it. So we've got North America. This one's below it. Let's have a look. Is it South America? So South America only has 12 countries within it, and a country that you might have heard of is Brazil. Brazil is found in South America. The Amazon is the world's biggest rainforest, and that is also found in South America. What is a rainforest? If you're not sure, maybe you could do a little bit of research on that this afternoon and find out what is a rainforest. Maybe find out what animals we might be able to find in our rainforest. So animals that we would find in South America would be sloths and jaguars. So you've got a really fast animal and a really slow animal as well. So have a think about what I said before about North America and the continent being below it. Where would South America be on our world map? So have a go at colouring it in, but like I said before, if you haven't got a printer, just point to where you think South America would be. Well done to those of you that identified this continent down here as South America. You are absolutely right. You're doing really well, yeah, too. I'm giving you lots of information, but I know you'll all be trying really hard at home. Okay, Antarctica. What do you notice about Antarctica? Does it look a little bit different to the other continents that I've been showing you? I think it does, doesn't it? It's covered in ice. Why would it be covered in ice, do you think? Maybe you could pause this video and tell your adult at home why it might be covered in ice. That's right, it's the coldest and windiest continent out of all 7. What animals do you think might live there if it's the coldest and windiest continent? Again, it's another one of my favourite animals. Can't you tell that I love animals? It's home to the penguins. So lots of penguins gather together in Antarctica to keep warm. So if you ever went to Antarctica, you would find lots of penguins there. Do you remember what I said about Antarctica? It's kind of like a long one that you would find on the globe. So have a look at our world map now. Where would Antarctica be? Well done to those of you that paused the video and either coloured in or pointed to this continent at the bottom of our map. That is Antarctica. Okay, one of the smallest continents in the world, it's not the smallest, but it's one of the smallest, is called Europe. And it has 44 countries altogether. And some of you might recognise the image that's on your screen now. What is that tower called? And where could you find that tower? This is a country that's within Europe. What is it? Well done, it is. It's the Eiffel Tower. And the Eiffel Tower is found in Paris, which is in France. So France is one of the countries that are in the continent, Europe. And animals that you might find in Europe are foxes and wolves. So animals that you will have heard of. So it's one of the smallest. It's not the smallest, but it's one of the smallest. It's got the country France within it, but there are 44 countries altogether. And it's home to wolves and foxes. So there are only 2 more continents that you haven't coloured in or pointed to on your world map. Can you find Europe on your world map? So we have this continent over here left, and we also have this continent here. Which one is going to be Europe? Pause this video and have a go for me. Do you remember I said it was one of the smallest, but not the smallest? That might be a little clue for you as to which one you need to colour in or point to. Well done to those of you that chose this continent here. This is Europe here. It's by Asia and it's by Africa. So the last continent that we need to learn about is Australia. And it's the smallest continent that we have in our world. Does anybody know what animals you might find there? That's right, kangaroos and koalas. They live in Australia. So we only have one continent left on our map. Can you colour that continent in? Remember, it's the smallest continent. Which one is it going to be? Well done to those of you that identified this continent here. It's the smallest one on our world map. Right, little challenge for you now. Can you turn to a clean piece of paper? Don't look at your world map. I would like you to write down the 7 continents in our world. So pause the video and write them down. See how many you can get. Challenge yourself. Don't worry if you can only remember 2. It really doesn't matter. That means you've learned 2 things this lesson. So pause the video and have a go at writing down as many continents as you can remember. And if you'd like a little challenge, maybe you could tell me either a country that's within that continent or one of the animals that you might find there. So pause this video and have a little go at that challenge for me. Okay, perfect. Hopefully you've done that by now. Hopefully you paused the video and gave yourself as much time as you needed. So, continents we learned about. Asia. Give yourself a tick if you got Asia on your list. And you might have said that one of the countries was India or China. And you may have said that one of the animals was tigers, monkeys or pandas. The other continent was Africa. So give yourself a tick if you got Africa. And we said one of the countries there was Egypt, didn't we? And we said that the animals were giraffes and elephants. So bonus points for you if you remembered any of those facts. And we looked at North America and we said that one of the countries there was Canada. And we said it's the home to the bears. So bonus points for you if you remembered any of those facts. Then we've got South America, which is below North America. And we said the country was Brazil that we could find there, as well as many others, obviously. And we said that it was home to really slow sloths and fast jaguars. Then we had Antarctica, which is our coldest continent. And we said it was home to the penguins. So the penguins would huddle together. So give yourself a tick if you got that one. Then we had Europe. And we said that one of the countries within Europe is France, and we said that that was home to foxes and wolves. And our last continent was Australia, which is home to kangaroos and koalas. So well done to those of you that managed to get, even if it was just one, well done for remembering. You can keep going over that to help you memorise them. Most important thing to remember is that there is just 7 continents in our world. And within those continents, there are lots of countries. Okay, so your task. Again, don't worry if you haven't got a printer. I would like you to have a go at making this for me. If you don't have a printer, don't worry. You could just draw a circle for the continents. But what I'd like to see is some continents smaller than others. If you do have a printer, print out another copy of the world map and you can cut the continents out of there. I'm going to show you how to create this in a moment. I didn't use a hanger. I didn't have a hanger at school, so I used a ruler. So you just use whatever resources you have at school. So continue watching the video and I will show you how to make that later on. Just before I go though and show you how to make that, I'm going to set you off on a challenge because our topic at the moment is art attack. So it's finding out all about famous artists. And I know that there is a famous artist that lives in the continent Europe. And to be more specific, they live in the country Spain. And within that country, they live in Malaga. So using that information that I have just given you, can you find out the famous artist that lives in Europe? Maybe you could do a little bit of research on that famous artist. And if you have a look at my image here, on this one, they've put facts for all of the continents, but maybe you could just have an extra piece of string hanging from Europe and you could write your facts about that famous artist on there. So continue watching the video now and I will show you how to make that. Don't forget to hand them in on the Google Classroom or send me a picture on Class Dojo. I would love to see the creations that you come up with and I'd love to see the facts that you find out about our famous artist. So well done for working really hard this morning. Not this morning, this afternoon. And like I say, I can't wait to see your creations. So I will see you tomorrow for our live English lesson. Bye.
So first you'll need some sellotape, our world map, a ruler, some string or ribbon and some scissors. You then need to cut out each of the continents. As you can see here, I'm starting with Antarctica, but you can choose any of the continents to cut out first. Once you've cut them out, put them to one side, ready for later on. They don't have to be perfect as long as you've got the basic shape. You then need to get your string, ribbon or wool or whatever it is you've got, and you need to cut 7 pieces off, and these are what your continents are going to hang from. You then need to take your string or wool, you need to cut 7 pieces of sellotape and attach them to your hanger or ruler. I then need you to get your continents and put them on the table ready to colour in. I'm putting mine in the correct order, but you don't have to do this as long as you space them out to colour in. I would like each continent to be a different colour. You then need to get your continents, and with sellotape you need to attach them to your string at different heights. As you can see, I've cut the excess string off apart from the one that is Europe, because you are going to add a piece of paper to the bottom and write your facts on that you find out about that famous artist. You can then create a title that says the 7 continents on your ruler or your hanger.